If I had a gun to my head, I would tell you that gold is being reintegrated into the financial system, into the monetary system. Let's go back several years to 2017 and move forward. In 2017, we see out of nowhere the German Bundesbank, who evidently for 4 years prior had been asking the Federal Reserve to send them back their gold. And it had taken so long, they finally got aggravated, put an article in the Wall Street Journal, made a big deal about it and said, more or less, send us back our damn gold. And we did, eventually, some of it. They're asking for the rest of it now, majority of it now, and I don't blame them. Evidently, some of the bars we sent them had different serial numbers than the bars that were sent to them, or that they sent to us originally. But what got interesting to me was that if you go back to 2011, from 2011 to 2017, the central banks and everyone was selling gold. It had gone from a high of 1,900 and had fallen several hundreds of dollars down to I don't know, maybe $1,000 an ounce or whatnot. And gold had fallen out of favor. The S&P and the Dow were roaring. Bitcoin was roaring. And
in what Andy Schectman calls a reintegration of gold into the monetary system, central banks have been quietly but aggressively repatriating and accumulating gold since 2017. Send us back our damn gold, demanded the Bundesbank, after years of delay from the Federal Reserve, a move soon echoed by Austria, Hungary, Poland, and others. In 2018, these same banks bought more gold than they had in the previous 60 years combined. Schectman explains, gold is now the only other Tier 1 reserve asset alongside U.S. Treasuries, after being reclassified by the Bank for International Settlements. He warns that trust in U.S. debt is eroding. Why would anyone want to own treasuries in a country nearly $200 trillion in debt? As global powers like the BRICS nations pivot to gold, he believes we are witnessing a shift towards sound money. And perhaps most strikingly, he adds, gold is not reacting to an event. It's reacting to a global monetary transformation underway.
Here you have the Bundesbank making a big deal about getting their gold back. That same year, the Bank of Austria, Hungary, Turkey, Poland, the Czech National Bank, the Dutch National Bank, many of these Eastern European banks did the exact same thing. Right after the Bundesbank did, they said to not only the New York Federal Reserve, but the Bank of England, give us back our gold, please. Now, really, for many, many years, really, you could go back to the end of World War II, the gold was either, most of the gold was held in the New York Federal Reserve because of safety, Western jurisdiction, Western rule of law, and the safety that it presented. But more recently, it was held at these two locations in England to give direct access to trading at the LBMA and also to the COMEX in New York. So it would be held by the Bank of England, it would be held by the New York Federal Reserve safely, and then they could trade it quickly, seamlessly on the two major hubs for price setting and liquidity. And they said, give us back our gold. Now, this was supremely interesting because no one was buying gold. In fact, the central banks had been net sellers of gold. In 2018, the following year, those same banks that requested all their gold bought more gold as a group together than they did in the previous 60 years combined. Now I start getting really interested. I'm talking in seminars about this. I'm speaking at it at conferences. In 2019, those same banks doubled the amount they bought the previous year. 100% increase. And now things are really getting crazy. And then out of nowhere, maybe it's just coincidence or not, the Bank of International Settlements, the most well-informed bank on the planet, the most powerful bank on the planet, the central bank, and this is the key to so much of what is happening now, reclassified gold as the world's only other Tier 1 reserve asset. Since the end of World War II, there's been basically one Tier 1 reserve by central bank standards, U.S. dollars / U.S. treasuries. And all of a sudden, the BIS reclassifies gold from Tier 3, where only 50% is calculated on your balance sheet, to Tier 1, the only other Tier 1. So all of these central banks, I believe, were told by the BIS in 2017, start bringing your gold home. Start buying it. Things are going to happen with gold. And we have seen over the last 4 or 5 years, 5 years now, those central banks buying more every single year to the point where what is driving the price of gold, or has driven the price of gold really since 2019 or 2018, has been massive central bank buying. That's where everything starts. Now, You go back my entire career, I've been doing this for 35 years. I can think of maybe 1 year, maybe 2, where there was any form of net imports of gold to the United States. The United States is traditionally a net exporter of gold. They did import some, I think, in 2011 and some in 2020 when everyone thought the world was coming to an end. Not a lot. But since November, since Trump won the election, the United States has become a massive importer of gold. I'm talking more gold has been imported since January of this year than has been since World War II, when everyone sent us their gold. So This is a big deal. Gold is the only other tier 1 reserve asset, and it is being massively accumulated by the traders who are the most well-funded and more importantly, the most well-informed. Not only massively accumulated, but repatriated from the traditional hubs of liquidity. We don't want to leave it with you. We know that that's where we get liquidity, but we'd rather have it at home. Thank you very much. So we fast forward to where we are right now. We're a net importer of gold, the only other tier 1 asset in the world. We hear members of the Bundesbank in Germany saying, gold should be revalued. On every central bank balance sheet across the Western world, gold is still valued at the old Bretton Woods price of $35 an ounce. In the United States, it's $42.22, and I'll explain that in a minute. But you have members of the Bundesbank saying we need to revalue gold to offset the liabilities in our balance sheet. Even just marking it to market will provide a tremendous amount of liquidity into our coffers that will allow us to normalize our balance sheet. You have the head of the Dutch National Bank who's been screaming this for a while. You have Senator Cynthia Loomis from Wyoming who is talking about here in the United States, gold should be revalued in the gold revaluation account. You can't make it up. In order to provide enough liquidity to take some of it to buy Bitcoin for the strategic Bitcoin account. So you have all of these players talking about revaluing gold. You have Judy Shelton, and a lot of people think she'll take over for Powell this time. I think there's a very good chance she will. But she said to me, listen, the whole premise of her book is that who the hell wants to buy U.S. treasuries that have been weaponized and are being inflated, have default risk, have inflation risk, have all sorts of risk, where net, since 2014, there has been no new central bank buying of U.S. treasuries predominantly. Now, there have been central banks that bought treasuries, but there's been more net selling than more net buying. And so net, it's central banks have been net sellers of our treasuries. And why would you want to own treasuries in a country that is nearly $200 trillion in debt? Yeah, 36 on the balance sheet, but Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, government military pensions exceed 175 trillion. We're nearly 200 trillion in debt. And a trillion is a long time ago, or a lot. And if we talk about it in terms of seconds, 31,688 years ago was a trillion seconds. So you're talking numbers that are so big people can't comprehend. We're 200